Welcome to today's video podcast where we are going to talk all about metabolism and how it can truly affect your weight loss goals. So if you're trying to lose weight or even maintain weight, you're going to want to stay until the end of the video because we got a lot of great information talking about what metabolism is, how it affects your overall weight loss, some of the common myths associated with metabolism, and what you can do if you have a slow metabolism. So you're going to want to stay all the way until the end because, again, some great information. Go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's dive right in. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about to kind of set up this idea of metabolism and losing weight is, what is your metabolism? And what can it really do when you're trying to lose weight? So metabolism, to begin, is essentially just the sum of all the major processes in the body. And you might be thinking to me, what does that even mean, right? Well, in your body, there is a large amount of things that happen on a day-to-day basis to keep you alive, okay? So some of these things are self-repair. So when you have a lot of different activities throughout the day, some of your cells get damaged and need to be repaired. So that's part of metabolism. Energy production, of course, the ability of you to take food and convert it to a form of usable energy, and then of course use it, is part of metabolism as well. So that's a very big part and a crucial component to metabolism. Thermoregulation, this is essentially the body's ability to maintain a certain temperature throughout the day. That's going to be part of your metabolism. And then, of course, digestion, as we just talked about, the ability to take that food you're consuming and convert it into usable energy. All of these are kind of a sum, again, of the major processes in the body. And this is a very simplified version of it. There are a lot of different things that your body does on a daily basis to keep you alive. But these are just a few of the major ones that I picked out to just give you an idea of kind of all the things that metabolism can truly encompass. So it's not just literally burning calories. It's the burning of calories from all of these different processes in the body, okay? So when it comes to metabolism, there's two different types of kind of metabolism we often think of. Anabolism, and this is simply just the creation of new material. So a great prime example of this is when we were talking about digestion. So when you digest food, you are essentially breaking down that food, right? So you're breaking down the food. That's technically not anabolism, but then you take that food and then make new material from it. You can help to repair cells. You can help to make new energy in your body, right? That's anabolism. You're using something to create something new, okay? Catabolism, and this is the exact opposite of this. So this is the breakdown of material. So when you digest something, initially you need to break it down, right? So you're being catabolic in that overall process. But then what you can do is use this anabolic process where you're taking that digested material and then making something new from it. And I think that's pretty dope. I think that's pretty cool because they're kind of going in tandem. You'll often hear anabolism and catabolism in regards to building muscle. That's kind of one of the most common things that happens. People will say, oh, I'm in an anabolic state, and that means they're in a muscle building state, or I'm in a catabolic state. That means they're in a muscle loss state. And usually these happen depending on how many calories you're consuming and if you're trying to actively lose weight or gain weight, okay? So that's kind of just a general idea of the basics of metabolism. But let's talk about daily calorie burn, because I think this is where most people are interested in metabolism and what it can truly mean for them for their weight loss benefits, right? So the daily caloric burn that we have comes down to three main things. And these three main things are your basal metabolic rate, the thermic effect of food, and your physical activity. So we'll start with basal metabolic rate. And basal metabolic rate essentially takes about 50 to 80% of your calories burned every single day. And if you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of calories burned, yes, it is. Your basal metabolic rate is essentially all of the activities your body needs to do to just keep you alive. If you just slept in bed all day and did absolutely nothing, this in turn is your basal metabolic rate, okay? It's not going out for a run, it's not going out for a walk, it's literally sitting and doing nothing. And when you're sitting and doing nothing, your brain is still working, your digestive organs are still working, your sight, your vision, all these different things are still working. That takes energy. 50 to 80% of your energy is from that. And the thing about your basal metabolic rate, for the most part, it is not variable, okay? So you can't change it. You are basically born, for the most part, with a basal metabolic rate at a set point. You can change this very slightly, and we'll actually talk about that a little bit later in the podcast, but for the most part, this is set in stone, okay? So that's basal metabolic rate, essentially all the daily activities, or not all the daily activities, all the calories that are burned from this are from just the essential activities in your body to keep you alive. And then the thermic effect of food, this is really interesting. Thermic effect of food simply states that it takes energy for you to actually digest the food that you're consuming. So you're taking in some food, but it actually takes energy to burn that food. And it actually takes about 5 to 10% of your daily calories every single day to burn some of that food that you're eating. So some interesting things about your thermic effect food. Protein burns the most calories out of all the food that you consume. So having a high protein diet is kind of one of those good ways to increase your metabolic rate. Just a tiny bit, it's going to be pretty negligible. Carbs burn the most, and then after protein, and then fat. So if we're thinking about which molecules or macronutrients burn the most amount of calories just to digest, it's going to be protein, then carbs, and then fat, okay? And what I want to say about the thermic effect of food is, in the end, it's essentially negligible in what these benefits will give you. So in other words, if you are consuming food and you're thinking, I'm going to consume so much food and then it's going to burn a bunch of calories and it's going to offset, it really doesn't work like that in the end. Even if you're eating a very high protein diet, you're only going to get a very slight boost in your metabolic rate. So what a better option would be if you are trying to boost your overall metabolism is lean in towards physical activity. And physical activity accounts for 30% of your daily calories burned every day. And I should say this could be 15% to 30% of your daily calories. So it's highly variable. If you think about it, if you are somebody who's very sedentary, you might only be burning about 15% of your daily calories from that physical activity. But if you're very active, you could add another 15% calorie burn every single day. That's going to add up tremendously over time. So it's a very powerful tool. And basically the only thing you can really control in this whole metabolism and weight loss efforts, okay? Something else I did want to mention too is that men actually have a higher metabolism, just generally speaking. I think this is interesting. And the reason because this happens is that men simply have more muscle tissue, okay? So when it comes to a person's metabolic rate, the more muscle tissue you have, the more calories you will burn at rest. And this is kind of one of the ways we can increase that resting metabolic rate, which is similar to basal metabolic rate, but the more muscle you have, the more calories you will burn at rest, hence the higher your overall metabolism will be, which is a really good thing overall. So go ahead and give this video a like if you've learned something new so far, and let's look at some ways that you might be able to actually boost your metabolism. This is some great stuff that'll help to keep you lean. So can you really do it? Well, there are a few ways that will help you to increase your metabolism. One of the first things that you can do to increase your metabolism is by eating more protein. More protein in your diet is great for boosting your metabolism simply because protein takes more calories to burn at rest. So if you think about it, if you're eating a food that takes more calories to burn it, more calories to digest it than carbs and fats, of course you're going to be just burning more calories in general, right? So high protein diets, very great. Also, kind of on a side note tangent, high protein diets are really good because they're high in satiety and they'll keep you full as well. So it won't really boost your metabolism in that sense, but if you're eating more protein, you're going to be less apt to overeat on more unhealthy foods, right? So that protein is a good way to kind of keep your overall calories in check. And of course, being physically active, we can actually think about this in two different ways. So physical activity can burn calories in the immediate sense. This would be like when you are doing cardiovascular exercise, for example, or you go out for a run, you are essentially boosting your metabolism in that tiny peak set, right? You're going out for a run, burning calories, metabolism is boosted. You can also lift some weights and build muscle, and that's going to boost your metabolism long term. So physical activity is super important in a lot of different ways. And in another sense too, we can also look at NEAT. So NEAT is what we call non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And that's a very fancy term for all the little calories that you burn every single day from fidgeting, from getting up and just kind of shifting your weight around, from tapping your hand on a desk, from maybe having like some tics or some little twitches in your body. These little tapping of your foot, tapping of your hand add up tremendously. And a lot of people who are very, very skinny have a very high NEAT. And the problem with NEAT is that it's very hard to consciously control. But the really cool and neat thing about it, neat, there's a pun. The cool and neat thing about it is that you can literally burn sometimes 500 up to 1,000 extra calories a day if your NEAT is high. And one of the ways that NEAT actually goes up, so this basically unconscious movements, is when you eat more. Your body naturally wants to move more when it has more calories, okay? But on the flip side too, there's a lot of skinnier individuals who just have a higher NEAT in general, so they're burning a lot of extra calories through fidgeting. And of course, that's a way to boost your metabolism. You can consciously think of doing it too, just, oh, I'm gonna tap my foot more. That's kind of tougher as well. But on top of that, living in inclement temperatures is another way that you can boost your metabolism. So inclement temperatures could be super, super hot weather. It could also be super, super cold weather, or just kind of bouncing in between the two. It doesn't particularly matter which one. But when your body is at those kind of inclement or tough temperatures, it's going to take more energy for you to keep your body at a set temperature, right? And if you are doing something like a cold plunge, or if you are doing something like sauna, you are stressing your body out in kind of one sense. And when you stress your body out like this, you are basically challenging yourself to remain at a certain homeostasis in your body. And this is going to take a lot of calories to do that. A few extra calories, right? It's not going to take a large abundance, but it is a small way that you can boost your metabolism, getting in those tough temperatures. Now, this is an interesting thing. Nicotine and caffeine. Caffeine and nicotine, right? So boosting your metabolism can happen by taking in some caffeine, but also by taking in nicotine. This is why a lot of people who smoke notice that when they quit smoking, they actually gain a little bit of weight. Or on the flip side, smokers are typically often pretty skinny. And it's something with the nicotine, it just boosts your metabolism a little bit, so it speeds everything up. Caffeine can help on a small degree as well. in addition to all the great benefits of caffeine helping with sports performance and pushing yourself in the gym. Of course, if you push yourself in the gym, you're going to be working harder. When you work harder, you're going to build more muscle. You're going to burn more calories in that immediate sense, and potentially just from that muscle mass you have built as well. And then sleep. Sleep is super crucial for boosting metabolism. This is mainly from hormonal imbalance. So your hormones essentially will be working in tip-top shape, and you're giving your body time to recover from all those activities of the day. So how significant are all these things for boosting your metabolism? They're fairly significant. I would say the biggest difference that will be made will be if you are done doing all of these consistently for a long period of time. And it's not going to offset a bad diet, and it's not going to offset a super bad lifestyle. So if you are doing all of these things, but you're still eating complete garbage every single day, it's not really going to matter at the end, because this is basically optimizing getting your metabolism a little bit better. This might be like 500 extra calories per day you're burning, maybe a little bit more in the grand scheme of things, which does add up. But if you're slamming beers or you're slamming burgers, all these, super unhealthy things, not getting good sleep, right? It's not going to matter. It's going to completely offset in the end and set you back in your weight loss goals. So go ahead and give this video a like so far if it has provided you some value and gave you some good, knowledgeable tools. Let's talk about some metabolism myths. Now, there are a lot of things floating around on the internet when it comes to metabolism that set people back so many months and could set you back too. So I'm going to hopefully save you some time so you can keep your weight loss goals in check and fight through all the misinformation online. So the first metabolism and weight loss myth is that being obese or being overweight is from a slow metabolism. This is somewhat a myth to some degree. So individuals who are overweight may have a slower metabolism, a very tiny bit though, okay? So the thing about metabolism is that when it comes to the overall calories burned every single day, this variation from person to person is typically very, very small, okay? It's very, very small. There can be a difference, but it is very small in the long term. What often happens with individuals who are overweight is that they have an issue regulating their appetite. So either they feel super hungry all the time, or they lack the ability to feel full very quickly. And typically it's actually a combination of these two things. Having a slow metabolism might be a tiny, tiny part of it, but it's not going to be the biggest thing, okay? And kind of on the flip side, another myth is that skinny people have a faster metabolism. So as I just discussed, this variation is very small at the end of the day. Skinny people might have a tiny bit of a faster metabolism, but for the most part, they just don't get hungry as often and they get full a lot quicker. Okay, that's going to be kind of the main things that usually happen with these people. Again, there's going to be outliers. There will be some people who can literally eat everything and they won't gain any weight. But for the most part, it's going to be from these hunger regulation things. Another common myth is that your metabolism slows down as you age. Now, this is true, but not to the extent that people think. People who are 30 or 40 and they look down and they're like, man, I got that dad bod starting. What in the world is going on? My metabolism is slipping. It doesn't happen like this. Usually your metabolism starts to decline once you hit roughly 55 to 65, so that 60-year-old range. That's when your metabolism truly starts to tank in kind of those overall processes, which might lead to less calorie burn. But what usually happens with most people is that they simply become inactive. And when you become inactive, you're burning less calories in that immediate sense, so your metabolism is slower in that regard. And since you're probably doing less weight training and just using your muscles, you're losing a lot of muscle mass. And muscle mass is metabolically active at rest. And that is one of the best ways to keep your metabolism in check and super high, is to have a lot of muscle so you can be burning calories at rest. So usually for a lot of these individuals, it isn't because necessarily your metabolism is slowing as you age. It's usually because people become less physically active as they age, and from those things it can lead to, of course, a less overall metabolism. Another weight loss myth is that eating protein will skyrocket your metabolism. Or I should say, eating specifically only protein will really skyrocket your metabolism. Now, protein absolutely does increase your metabolism a very tiny bit. And this is because when you eat protein, it takes more energy to digest that food compared to when you eat carbs or when you eat fats, okay? When I say skyrocket, people think that they can literally eat as much protein as possible and this is going to completely negate all the burning off. No. If you are eating too much protein, as in you are now eating in a calorie deficit, but it isn't just protein, it's going to be hard for you to gain fat, but you will gain fat. So it will increase your metabolism very slightly, but it's kind of negligible. It wouldn't be what I call skyrocketing your metabolism. So the next myth that we're going to talk about is weight loss, and this idea that losing weight is all about calories in versus calories out. So when it comes to losing weight, for the most part, the overall amount of calories or energy you consume on a daily basis is going to be highly indicative if you are going to lose weight, okay? But this does not happen for everyone. And there can be a slight hormonal imbalance that happens specifically if people have hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. Now, your thyroid is a gland that produces different hormones that help with your metabolism. And if you have hyperthyroidism, you are likely going to be very skinny. Hypothyroidism, you might be a little more overweight or have a tough time managing your weight. Now, I should say, this is not why most people are overweight or obese, but it can be a reason that you are not losing weight too much, and that you can try to control all the calories you want, but it's just very difficult for you to actually lose weight or maintain weight for yourself. Now, another thing that people often say to me is like, you can't control your metabolism. That's a complete waste of time. This is another myth. There is a lot of different ways that you can increase your metabolism. Physical activity is great. Getting more sleep, eating that high protein diet as we talked about. There are some supplements. Caffeine will increase your metabolism a tiny bit. Building muscle is great for building lean mass, of course, which increases your resting metabolism, burning more calories at rest. So there are a lot of different things that you can do to control your metabolism. It doesn't make a huge difference in the long term, but these things can make a small difference, and those small changes over time will likely lead you to losing a lot of weight, which is, of course, what we're all trying to do and what we all want to do. Two more myths. These last two will probably get some of you too, and I'm sure you've heard these, but eating more meals increases your metabolism. This is something that has been debunked quite a while ago, and this was often because bodybuilders or people in the fitness scene think that you need to eat literally 6 meals 2 to 3 hours apart every single day because you're going to stoke the metabolic fire. This has been disproven. You can eat 1 meal, you can eat 2 meals. It has really no bearing at all on your daily metabolic rate. You know, you might be able to potentially build muscle a little bit better if you're eating these spaced out meals versus maybe 1 or 2 meals a day. But when it comes to overall metabolic rate and just weight loss in general, or maintaining your weight, it does not really matter in the grand scheme of things. And of course, eating before bed increases your fat gain. Man, this is something that a lot of people think, and unfortunately it's leading them to waste a lot of time and spread more misinformation to people. But eating before bed does not increase your fat gain. It doesn't slow your metabolism. I would recommend try to eating at least 2 hours, maybe 3 hours before bed. I kind of struggle with that. I usually only give it out an hour and a half before I go to bed. But eating before bed, especially a smaller meal, higher in carbs, can actually help people to fall asleep pretty well. And if you have good sleep, guess what? Your metabolism is going to be in check. The calories you eat right before bed aren't just going to become immediately absorbed as fat just right away. It's going to digest. It's going to digest eventually, and there might be some discomfort. So again, trying to eat a smaller meal might be kind of more advantageous before bed, but it's not going to gain you any more fat. So go ahead and give this video a like if that provided some value for you so far. And the next thing we can look at is exercise and weight loss, and specifically what metabolism is doing when we are physically active and trying to lose weight. So physical activity is great because it accounts for roughly 30% of our daily caloric burn if we are physically active. Now, this is the catch. This is the catch because if you are not physically active, you might only be burning about 15% of your daily calories from basically every single day. So you can add 15% extra daily calorie burn from being physically active, which can greatly skyrocket your metabolism and allow you to lose weight so much easier. So it's highly variable, right? Your basal metabolic rate, or the calories burned from all of the little processes in your body like digestion, respiration, processing all the data in your brain, right? That's going to come from your basal metabolic rate. And then the thermic effect of food, that's the energy it takes to digest and break down that food. That's going to be the rest of the calories. But physical activity counts for roughly 15 to 30% of that daily calorie burn. Now, exercise can boost metabolism in two ways, and this is really, really neat. It can do it acutely, and when I say acutely, I mean right now. So right now, you can literally increase your metabolism. And the way you can do this is by going for a walk, going for a run, doing some cardiovascular activity that skyrockets your heart rate, gets that heart rate up. This will boost your metabolism and burn some calories. The thing about this, though, is that increased metabolic rate from doing this and that increased calorie burn will quickly drop off after you are done doing that form of cardio exercise, okay? So on top of that, what might be what I should say, better thing to do, on top of doing cardio, of course, because cardio is great for overall heart health, is to lift some weights. Now, lifting weights is incredibly potent in increasing your metabolism chronically. And chronically, when I say chronically, it sounds bad, but this means for a very long time. So when you lift weights, you build muscle, and building muscle is so amazing because it will burn calories at rest. It will burn calories at rest, and that's incredibly useful because if you think about it, you are essentially adapting your body to become a fat-burning furnace. So basically, you're sitting, you're doing nothing, you're watching Netflix, you're watching TV. Guess what? That muscle mass you built, yeah, it's burning calories watching Netflix, doing nothing. Versus cardio, you would need to go out and do a run or do a bike ride or do a walk to burn those calories and increase your metabolism long term. So that's the cool thing. Assuming you are consistently resistance training, right? That muscle is basically going to stay forever, and it's going to constantly be burning calories at rest. So this is why I think and why I recommend a combination of weight training and cardio as one of the best overall weight loss tools for yourself to both lose weight in the immediate and long term. because of what we discussed right there exactly. You can burn some calories right now, but you can also build some muscle, which is going to burn calories literally for the rest of your life, assuming you consistently weight train. And that is also why it is so important to consistently weight train and be physically active throughout your age, because your metabolism, once you hit about 60, regardless of what you do, will go down slightly. So it's really crucial to keep that lean mass built and those good exercise habits built as you move through the rest of your life. So another really important thing to discuss is the role that nutrition plays when we are trying to lose weight. Now, nutrition can have a few different effects and a few different ways that it works into overall how your metabolism works. So we're first going to discuss the thermic effect of food, because this is one way that nutrition will affect your metabolism and weight loss. So the thermic effect of food is simply the basically state that your body goes into when it's trying to digest food. And this state is simply saying that it's going to take a little bit of energy to break down that food. So you're taking in energy, you're taking in calories, but it's going to take a little bit of calories to actually process that energy, process those calories, and use them. So it's kind of interesting. You're almost spending money to make a little money, I guess you could say, in a sense. But when it comes to the calories burned digesting food, protein will burn the most. So this will raise your basal metabolic rate acutely 20 to 30%. Carbs will only do about 5 to 10% of an increase in your basal metabolic rate. And fats, 0%, maybe up to 5% if you're lucky. So increasing your overall protein intake is probably one of the most potent ways you can boost your metabolism, at least acutely. And if you're eating a lot of protein every single day with every single meal and being consistent about this, it could be a great way to boost your metabolism. Again, it's going to be kind of negligible on the overall effects long term, but it does have a profound effect. As you can see, protein has almost either 2 to 3 times the acute calorie burn for your basal metabolic rate versus carbs. Now, a higher protein diet can burn more calories in the short term. As we just discussed, it is going to raise your basal metabolic rate a little bit, so that's going to burn more calories now. But protein also helps to preserve lean mass and lean muscle. And we know from numerous different studies that the more lean mass, the more muscle somebody has, the higher their metabolic rate is going to be, assuming that they're consistently resistance training and, of course, getting in that protein so their muscle is going to stay on their body for as long as possible, okay? Now, we don't want to neglect other macronutrients, though, even though protein is super, super good. If we neglect on carbs and we neglect on fat, carbs specifically, we're going to miss out on fiber, which is really crucial to keeping our body full and also keeping ourselves regular, which is super helpful when it comes to energy. And then both fat and carbs have a decent amount of micronutrients, which have all those vitamins and minerals we need to help with all the bodily processes that help keep our hormones in check and help to keep us more energetic. So without these different things, we're going to feel more lethargic. We might have some hormonal issues. One of the ones I wanted to bring up is if you're not eating enough iodine, you might actually lead to having a low thyroid function, and having a low thyroid function in your body, otherwise hypothyroidism, greatly decreases your overall metabolic rate. Also, if you're not eating carbs too, you're not going to have a lot of fuel in your body, and for most people, this is going to make them feel a little tired. This isn't saying to overdo it, right? But it's within whatever calorie and macronutrient goal works for yourself. There's a lot of calculators online, you can find those out, and also some good information on my channel you can check out as well. And then, of course, if you're less energetic, you're not feeling good because you're tired, you don't have any energy for just movement in general, you're going to be probably less active. And as we discussed, activity is super important because if you are very active, you're going to be burning more calories in that immediate sense, but you're also going to be burning more calories because you're going to build some muscle. And when you build muscle, that muscle mass is going to be burning so many extra calories at rest. It's going to be raising that metabolism and keeping you up to check. Also, some supplements, and I hate to almost even say this one, nicotine. And I don't even highly recommend people to do that, but nicotine potentially is a way to increase your metabolism. This is why sometimes smokers who come off of smoking will gain a lot of weight back. And then also caffeine will acutely increase your metabolic rate. Again, these things are kind of negligible, but they are things to consider. Nutrition does play a role, a pretty heavy role actually, in your overall metabolism, which is why eating good nutritious foods is incredibly important to do that and keep your metabolism ultimately in check for yourself, because that's what we all want to do for better, healthier weight loss. Go ahead and give this video a like if it's providing you some good value. And on top of that, we can also dive into what you should do if your metabolism is slow. So I know what you're thinking. You go to a party and your friend there who is super skinny and can seemingly eat everything under the sun. They can eat pizza, they can eat cake, they can drink a bunch of alcohol, and they are not gaining any weight at all. And you're thinking, man, their metabolism is just through the roof. And then yourself, you look at a piece of cake and you immediately gain 5 pounds. This isn't fair. So if your metabolism is slow, what should you do about it? Well, here's the deal. The first thing I want you to do is to stop blaming your overall genetics. Now, there is a small genetic variation in metabolism from person to person. In other words, some people might burn a little more calories than the other, and some people might burn a little less calories. You might be genetically gifted in burning a little less calories than other people, but in the end, this is a very small variation. Most people are pretty tightly in roughly the same overall calorie burn every single day. Some people do have a harder time managing their weight. So the thing that usually happens with people who kind of have a slower metabolism, or so it seems like, is usually they get much hungrier and when they eat. So their body feels more hungrier, they have a bigger appetite, and they also get full way less quickly. So they're more hungry, and at the same time, they feel like they can't stop eating. So that can be a super, super tough thing when you are trying to maintain your weight. So it is slightly from your metabolism maybe being a little bit slower, but for the most part, it's just kind of this appetite regulation thing. So what can we overall control when it comes to this, okay? So the first thing that we can do if your metabolism is slow is simply becoming physically active. This is probably one of the easiest and quickest ways to boost your metabolic rate. And it's going to boost your metabolism acutely from doing activity like cardio, where you're biking, walking, swimming, running, jump roping, all these different things is going to burn some calories and increase your metabolism in that immediate moment. And then if you are lifting weights, this can boost your metabolism both acutely and chronically. So when you lift weights, it's going to boost your metabolism because your heart rate's going to be going. It's going to be tough during that time. But you can also build some muscle mass from these weight training sessions, which once you start building some muscle mass, you're going to literally be burning more calories at rest doing absolutely nothing. Muscle mass is extremely metabolically active at rest. Another great way to just boost your metabolism is to just get more steps in. I think this is one of the easiest things to think about. If you look at your pedometer on your iPhone or your phone or in general, and you're only clocking in about 3,000, maybe 5,000 steps every single day, try to get up to 7,000, 8,000. Get another 3,000 steps in. Try to get it up to 10,000 steps, maybe more than that. This is something that I do personally that really helps to keep my metabolism in check. I walk roughly about 10 to 15,000 steps every single day, on top of my normal physical activity that I do. And this isn't anything crazy, I'm just doing more activity. And the more activity you do, the higher your metabolic rate is going to be, right? So super simple, maybe easier said than done. But if you're just starting, try to get 2,000 more steps, 3,000 more steps. Really easy way and place to start. Increasing protein intake is another thing that you can control. Protein does burn more calories at rest when you are actually digesting it. So when you take in that protein, it's going to acutely increase your basal metabolic rate by roughly 20 to 30% just to burn that protein, just to actually digest it and to, of course, help you to build that muscle. And as we just discussed, building muscle is going to greatly increase your metabolism long term. And this is an interesting one. So if your metabolism is slow in your eyes, being in extreme temperatures can actually kind of help to boost your metabolism a little bit. So this could be something along the lines of being in a sauna, which is really, really hot, right? It's going to heat up your body. Or doing a cold plunge where you get into something that's basically an ice bath for a small amount of time. Both of these can increase your metabolism because you are challenging your body's ability to thermoregulate or keep the same temperature. Anytime you are kind of stressing your body out acutely in that sense, we talked about it from exercise earlier, that's a stress on your body. It's a good stress that you will recover from. Cold temperatures and really hot temperatures, assuming you're not in them for a very long period of time, is no different. These extreme temperatures can, of course, over time increase your metabolic rate. Again, a very tiny bit, but of course, these are some things that you can do, you can control. So it's not about throwing in the towel, blaming our parents, and saying, I can't do anything. There is a lot of things to do. It's just about taking some personal accountability, and that the fact that we need to actually make a change and do some small steps to get ourselves to boosting our metabolism and becoming healthier. So another thing I wanted to talk about is getting older. And so many people think that when you get older, that is the reason why your metabolism tanks. And people often think, when I talk to them, people who are maybe in their 30s or 40s, they look down at their beer belly and they're like, man, my metabolism, I just could eat whatever I wanted when I was younger, right? I could do anything. And for a lot of people, this isn't the case. A lot of people, when they age, their metabolism does slow. But this is a very slight amount. And in fact, your metabolism actually stays fairly consistent until you hit about your 60s. So what are we missing here in the meantime? Why is it 30 to 40-year-olds seemingly are gaining a bunch of weight? Well, if you think about it, kids, job, more formal responsibilities, probably a lot less physically active than they used to be. Oh, of course, if they're maybe stressed from the kids, job, family, work, etc., maybe they're eating not the healthiest anymore too. Sounds like a double-edged sword. Sounds like a double-edged sword where most people might be not being as physically active from all the different things and not eating the best, okay? So that's potentially why in your 30s and 40s, but once you hit your 60s, there may be some hormonal issues that happen, and there may be some hormonal issues in general, despite your age. You could have thyroid problems. Some people have hypothyroidism, which means their body's kind of having a slower metabolism, and hyperthyroidism. Your metabolism might be running on overdrive, and there are some crazy people that literally have hyperthyroidism. I saw this, it was crazy. This girl was eating like 10,000 calories a day, and she was a twig. She literally had so many digestive issues. She could barely stay alive, which is kind of sad in its own term. There also could be some medication interactions that cause some weight gain if you're taking. But again, as I discussed, most individuals, especially when they get very older and they get into that senior age, people retire. And when you retire, there's a lot less formal responsibility, and there might be a lot less reason to interact with the world. And this can lead to decrease in physical activity, decrease in muscle mass, functional ability, of course, and then overall energy. And when you're not high in energy, you're not going to be wanting to be physically active. You're not going to be wanting to go build muscle. You're not going to want to just get out in the world and do much. So it's this kind of never-ending feedback loop that builds off of each other, where it just leads to, unfortunately, more and more people doing less. And when you do less, you are going to be losing muscle. You are going to not be challenging yourself as much. And of course, we know that muscle and challenging yourself is why a lot of people will have a higher metabolism and ultimately keep themselves lean long term. So once you hit your 30s and 40s, you got to keep it a priority, even if you have kids, even if you have a family, even if you're stressed out, because it can quickly falter, very quickly, I should say, in your overall metabolism. And then think about it. If you ride that until you're 60 and your metabolism actually starts to go down a little bit in general, and maybe now you're retired and you've kind of earned the right to relax, it's going to get even worse. It's going to get even worse, and this can lead to so many unfortunate health complications in many individuals, which is why I am a huge proponent of lifelong physical activity for individuals of all abilities. Go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We help individuals of all abilities improve their overall health and knowledge of the gym, regardless of where they are currently at in life. And once I'm finished with this stream, I'm going to go ahead and link a video in the pinned comment talking about calorie counting for beginners and giving you a bunch of good tips and tricks that you can use to calorie count like a pro and lose weight effortlessly. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.